to some people. I just study harder than everybody else. But if I don't know it, I'm gonna go find it out so I can help you.
Has a protection of said trust, which is the difference between being in the public trust and your strong man and being within the private. Let's say, for instance, if you were with the mosque or the NOI, you know what I mean? You would have the protection of those groups of people. So if you could expound on that and then the difference between the OOR and the UUR, please.
Well, the UUR was Amaru. It was AMUURU. The Amaru is the tribal designation that they trying to say is the same as a MOOR more. They not the same, right? When you look at the Moors, they try to get anything with an M and an R in it out of history and say, see, we was ancient Moors here. And the word be something like Mirafaka. That's not Moor, you know. Like the, for instance, a good one is the Kemetic term mir. The Kemetic, they say this is the Moors, the mir. Well, you motherfuckers is some spaceships. Because that's what a flying apparatus is, a mir in Kemetic. It's the same thing in Hebrew. A mir is a ship, a plane, a flying apparatus. That's not the same thing. Then they try to use that as the dogmatic influence. Remember, Albert Pike issued the righteous the challenge between morals and dogma. Was you going to pursue the moral path or the dogmatic pursuit? Let's go back to a little history lesson. Let's go back to when the Moorish um, Temple of Science, a civics organization, was formed. When the Moorish civics organization was formed, it was formed to give us a try in the public domain in a system that they had no jurisdiction over. But somebody inside of the lodges signed some kind of a contract that made you become a U.S. national more. If you look on the back of your nationality card, it's going to say that this Moor is a U.S. national. That's a contradictory idea in and of itself, in that the U.S. is a foreign corporation masquerading as a de jure agency of government, right? So who is these people? They come in the legal fashion, they barristers. Barrister, if you look it up, is a title of nobility. And in the barristers union, you have honorables and esquires in rank. Esquires are the ones who are practicing the arguments on the floor. The honorables is the ones who sit and referee the argument between the two opposing sides in order for the barristers to get done administering the estate. The estate is governed by the lords. The lords are the landlords, right? Lords is a title of nobility. Yep. These are what we call real estate tycoons. Those who own massive amounts of real estate, but they don't have a domicile. They don't have a direct home. They do that because they don't have the same arrangements in law when they are owners of the land, as opposed to what we call domiciles on the land. So we talking about somebody that's walking around as a ghost versus somebody walking around in flesh and blood. We talking the difference in a Dred Scott 3/5 compromise Negro that got no rights that a white man, which is a free white person in law, which is a Moor, is bound to respect. The whole purpose of doing the paperwork is to activate the status as free white person in law that makes you above the jurisdiction of the authorized bar associations of King George III. King George III issued the first charter for barristers to come and administer the estates of the landlords in what they call commerce and enterprise in the New World. That's what they agreement was, or they commission was from King George. So they became the ones who argued contract. When they issue a warrant is an ongoing declaration of war. The U.S. Supreme Court already ruled that the people that look like us are not part of their system, and they are not part. They are ongoing enemy combatants. This been in the law since the law been over here from their system. They never overturned any of that. Dred Scott haven't been overturned. They still see us as three-fifth compromised Negroes. When we become five-fifth realized, then we understand that the key to America is on the face of the dollar bill, and the contractors is there on the face of the dollar bill, right? The United States Treasury and the Treasurer of the United States. Who in the fuck is these motherfuckers and where's they at? And how is they making contracts and don't nobody know that they made a contract?
Exactly.
Right? So
Right.
under the Fair Debt Collection Act nullifies, voids out all of the contracts for what we call non-disclosure in law. The non-disclosure is they never told you that they were an interim government that was operating to reestablish the original governments of the land. Instead, they went rogue and decided to establish their own government on our land under the pretense that we will never figure out who we are. We will always think that we Moors, and we'll never know that we was at odds with the Moors in order to establish this land over here as the original de jure occupants of the land. When you get to the history, it tells you clearly that the Moors used to auction off the POWs, and you can find that in a book called Moors and Freemasonry, where it's talking about the auctions and the different prices is the status of the ones being auctioned. All of that's in there, but they thinking that it means something else. That's slave. That's the slave block. Them motherfuckers, they was POWs, they was ransoming off, was us. They was selling us between themselves to do their bidding for them and to have children so they can kill us off and raise our kids and never know who they were. So now we don't know who he is. Our knowledge is took, a state of darkness, triple darkness, eternal death. And the only way to come back from it is to come back to life. Kill your straw man, your doppelganger, your imposter. Once you kill your imposter by asserting your five-fifth status in the public domain by public notice with no paperwork attached, because that's the trick. The barristers have it set up where anything that you file, driver's license, birth certificates, all of these adhesion contracts is designed, nationality cards. When you start signing this paperwork with these people, we already been infiltrated. So they designed to take you right back to the system.
Mm.
So the good question just came up. What about the American rights of the indigenous people? That's the I fucked you good note on the prostitute's dresser when the John is leaving.
Damn.
That's the I told you that all your shit belonged to me, but now I'm telling you I was just lying and I fucked you good. That's
So,
all it's saying. They just telling us what we already know, but they had to tell it to us because they're not gonna believe it coming from one of us.
and that's the problem. Don't nobody believe nothing we say. They are, if the Caucasian ain't said it, then it's not true. That's what's the
And
problem.
this is the reason why that exists. Because the dirty Moors, blacker Moors and tawny Moors, use pale faces to block institutions to keep us from discovering what they doing.
Exactly. You got
And
that
this is what was keeping us from developing to five-fifth realization status is because they hijacked the lodges. They came in hostile, according to Noble Drew Ali, 32-degree Scottish Rite Red Lodge. That's the motherland. They infiltrated the motherland first. That means they sent some stinking riding coochie bitches up into the families'
Damn.
harems and fucked up the families. She came in acting like she believed in the sisterhood, and then she found her head sister and busted her in the head.
Mm.
And
So
then soon as the chief said something about it, she poisoned it with hemlock.
so now I'm hearing, like I said, I'm around everywhere, but people don't see me. I'm just there. Now we got this thing. Okay, we're on the track of who we are if they do the genealogy, but then you have people saying that we actually mix with some Europeans, is where a lot of our last names coming from, and they are the European royalty bloodline. Is reason, I guess, to say that's why royalty is in America. But if you look over in Europe, ain't shit there. So where did they get their royalty from?
And their name's not Smith and Jones. Ours is.
Exactly.
Ours was the name. We had the names. They took
But
the name.
they're giving people the, what you call it, like when you trace your name back to a what's that emblem, you have the
Family crest.
yeah, the family crest. Now
Okay, so look, these names conceal tribal identities. Jones is, remember, the J 500 years old. We've been here longer than that.
mhm.
Jones is Ionis. Ionis means fish. So the Jones clans was the clans who used to fish the rivers and the lakes on the land.
That's what's up.
Yep. My
Okay,
The
people.
what about
Johnsons, the
okay?
Johnsons, remember there was no J. It's
Mm-hmm.
Yanan. Yanan is the light bringers.
Mm. You know, I
So
like.
the children of the ones who was the light bringers, which was priests in the community, was called Johnsons. So it's just so many things that they tricked us with, that unveiling all of the tricks in one day would probably make a motherfucker drop dead at the end.
So what about, okay? One of my surnames is Walker.
Right. The Walkers is the Skywalkers. That's Big Tukey clan. The Skywalkers used to live in villages and treetops, so they burnt all the trees down.
Mm.
They was fearless. They was the ones, when you watch the Great Wall, you see the women in the blue fighting those dragon bitches. That those were Skywalkers,
Oh, okay.
right? When you pull up treetop villages, you still got different tribes around the world that still got treetop villages. We had them. You used to be able to leave New Orleans in the treetops and don't even come down from the
Down
tree
on the yeah, I
until you got to Florida.
And you were absolutely right, because the first thing they did on Claiborne Avenue was cut down all the trees, because
that,
that's how
that
people
goes
felt.
back. That goes back to the story that these clowns is teaching, the Africa story that I was listening to. That niggas was Homo sapiens sapiens that lived up in the trees. Then one day, one of the Homo sapiens came down out the tree and started living on the land.
Look, we lived on the land. We got tribes that dive under the water. That's where your mermaid myth came from.
Yes.
If you pull them up, it's a tribe in South Africa that's known for diving in the ocean. That's a mermaid clan, right? And they take the word mer and say that mean more too. I would be shaking my goddamn head, right? But everything with an M and an R in it is under the dogma. Remember, it's the difference between the morals and the dogma. Under the dogma, anything with an M and an R in it is a more. If it's in the history books to prove they lie, that we've been called Moors, you can't find nowhere over here we was Moors before
I
1492.
cannot find
It
nothing. I tell you,
and,
I've been
and anybody that want to produce it, go ahead, produce it, because you're gonna be the made that shit up.
Now I heard
exactly.
that people
Speaking
in
of
the
that,
islands
there's
was
this
also.
meme that keeps going around. Oh, my apologies.
Go ahead, sweetie, go
No,
ahead.
you fine. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Real quick, there's this. Thank you. There's this meme that keeps going around that saying that the word Moorish substituted was a substitute for the word Indian around 1600s. I
Yeah,
can't fully
that's
exact.
correct. Now remember, when Columbus came, they said they was going to India, right? This shit don't make no sense, but I'm gonna tell the story how they tell it. So he was finna find an alternative trade route to India by going east. Ain't that the story they tell us in school? All right, and once he got here, he mistaken the people on the land with the people from India. That's what they told us, ain't it? And at that time, the people of India was primarily something called a Dravidian. So if you pull up a picture of a Dravidian, then you'll see who he thought he was bumping into. But neither here nor there. The problem with that storyline that they was telling us in school is India was Hindustan into the 1900s. So where in the fuck does he think he going? Right? So when they was coming over here, they knew where they was going because his navigator, Pietro del Negro, was a blackamoor, and he was running the show. The navigator ran the ship, not the captain. Because the captain can't get nowhere if the navigator don't tell him where to go. So the navigator is a blackamoor, a Etruscan named Pietro del Negro. This is all in the history books. You can look this shit up. It's easy to find since I don't never have no receipts for the shit I be saying. But this shit is too easy to find for me to be making it up.
Mm-hmm.
So when you find out in the logs that he ran into the most loving, kind, and peaceful people we ever seen in his life, they'll make a perfect motherfucker to a goddamn motherfucking sack. So Christopher Colombo, is the investigator who's traveling with the navigator. Now remember, he went to Isabella and Ferdinand to get finances for the trip, right?
Mm-hmm.
Secret relation between blacks and Jews say it wasn't the Jews, Jewels, of Ferdinand and Isabella that paid for Columbus's trip. It was her Jews. If you pull up the Jewish brooch, the Blackamoor Jewish brooch, they all wear them in allegiance to the royal family that they aligned with. They wear the brooch. It's a nigger face, a Blackamoor. Big lip, soup cooler, nappy head motherfucker. That's a piece of jewelry in Europe. So when you listen to Dr. John Henry Clark, he said they didn't call them Jews because they was from Judah. They called them jewels because of the jewelry. These motherfuckers' faces was on the jewelry.
Mm.
And so he gets backed up by Dr. Ben. Dr. Ben say us the black Jews, and he goes into the historical record of the people that's called Etruscans and the difference in the other peoples. It's right in the book. You know, most people are not gonna read it, but Dr. Ben put it out there for a reason, and there's some good information in there. My Pan African studies didn't fail to teach me that I'm from over here. I'm not from no goddamn Africa. I didn't come on no slave ship. I was already here. I've been so long. I've been here so long. Here wasn't even here when I got here.
That part.
And so since we've been here so long, I'm gonna remember who the fuck I am, cause that's my job. Because Mama said if you don't know who the fuck you is, you ain't gonna never know who nobody is. What
Mm.
the fuck she mean by that? And then I read in the philosophers, they say in the pyramids it's written, "Man, know thyself." Well, that don't mean I ain't got no damn other motherfucker. I just know who I am.
And we
Yeah.
got that's right. That's what's most
Right.
important. As long as you know who you are.
And the rest of it gonna tell itself because those who not from the same heart link as me and my families, they will not stand up to the scrutiny. They're gonna kick, scream. Then this is the craziest part. No matter how much you bust their ass in the head with the facts, they're gonna send the lowest level of student, the least qualified to challenge what you're saying, to challenge you. And they're gonna have a whole fucking tantrum. Like they really saying something, but the
Mm.
whole time them motherfuckers ain't saying shit. We them feather wearing motherfuckers that run around the goddamn campfire on that fire water talking about, ooh, them us.
Now, with that being said, what's the rhetoric behind the $5 Indian? And do those the chief that, like, let's say for instance, Kyle had it in Pocahontas, right? There's a lot of like
Yeah, she
misconception
was
or just myth.
Pocahontas was a human traffic rape victim. That's what she was. She was being um, held hostage by a captor. She was the queen of the land that they had subjugated, and the rest of the queens knew who she was, and she gave them a heads up all the way across the land on the journey. See, they don't tell y'all that because they don't want you to know that we ain't never laid down to these motherfuckers. We just readjusted to re-strategize. And they told me, Rod, you gonna be the one figure this shit out. And I'm like, not me. I'm not the smartest motherfucker in the goddamn drawer. She said, you don't gotta be the sharpest
That's
knife in the
right.
drawer. You just gotta be sharp enough to cut something. So
That's
I've just been
right.
running around cutting the fuck out they shit everywhere I see it. This a lie, but cut this motherfucker too with the truth.
Mm-hmm.
So
And the truth cuts more than anything else.
yeah, worst thing you can tell a motherfucker is the truth. Look, you can lie on a nigga and he'll laugh at you. You tell the truth on him, he'll shoot you in your face.
Yep. And
That's
that's a
right.
fact. That's a
That's
fact.
fact.
These Negroes so lost out here, they'll argue with you and argue with you, but don't know nothing about their damn bloodline. They'll argue with you about being out of Africa. They'll argue with you about Egypt. Is that, you know? And the sad part about it, if they said they kidnapped you from the west coast of Africa, what do Egypt got any damn thing to do with west coast Africa? There's two different countries, and not only that, that's different cultures. But
Listen,
these niggas want to be Egyptians.
Egypt is as far from Ghana as New York is from Hawaii,
Facts.
if not further.
Mm, mm,
But you know, we over here don't realize that in the motherland they got warring tribes. You got tribes of invaders and tribes that's been there since the beginning. The ones that have been there since the beginning, they never stopped fighting the motherfucker. That's why you had Ethiopians starving, the Arabs that had taken Sudanese and Somalians and Southern Egyptians and Algerians and for slaves for hundreds of years. This shit ain't none of this shit new. How do we find out or translate from the real alphabets, and how are the same names in Europe and America? How do we know if history is based on this soil or across the pond when the names being same? The whole purpose of leave that up for a minute. The whole purpose of using the same names is to confuse people. You got to remember that part.
yep.
That's Anunnaki war strategy. When you go to Genesis, when you look at Cain's children, they named after Seth's children, or vice versa, right? Uh, it's difficult to learn how to translate it because you have to come into a certain knowledge of self in order to be able to see all of their tactics. When you learn how to read, excuse me, when you learn how to read your own thoughts, then the spirit come in. When the lie come up, nature tells you with an alert system, but most of us don't know our alert system. Some of us get a gut feeling, some of us get goosebumps, some of us get a headache, some of us our eyes jump, our ears ring. But we always, when we running down the wrong path, we get these intuitive reactions that the body is responding to nature telling you them niggas lying to you. Don't believe that shit. Don't trust that motherfucker.
Mm-hmm.
So we stop teaching our children to listen to the inner voice because our school systems that we've been attending teaches them that the inner voice is the devil.
Mm-hmm.
So they can't never listen to the inner God because they've been told that the inner God is the devil. Devil mean enemy. The devil is the motherfucker telling you that shit. He said, okay, so the when you read, this was a good one. Georgetown University has a book called History of the World by Georgetown University. Oxford also have a book called Oxford University History of the World, and they some huge books. And when you read them, they don't read the same. The world history that Europe give is not the world history we get in America.
Mm.
The European world history give us more details. It shall tell us the fake names and the real names of a lot of the players, right? But
Mhm.
we don't know that because we over here studying this from Americans' perspective. The American perspective is a colonizer's attempt to keep the colonized under control by teaching them a specific doctrine in education. Say, teaching you in a Skinner box using the Pavlovian response system how to be a servant and usable on a workforce to keep their system afloat. Our people never mind working, but we're not gonna work for the enemy, not knowingly. And so they can't never let us know that the enemy is who we working for. Because when we realize it, we're gonna do the same thing they wrote about in the history books. They say the Native American doesn't make a good slave. The natives we found when we try to force them to the field labor will sit in one place and refuse to move even until he starved to death.
Mm.
So they already know that we gonna follow something that the Chinese call the Wu Wei. The Wu Wei is one I got from RZA, by the way, from the Wu Tang Clan. But the Wu Wei is to do something, nothing in order to accomplish something. That
Mm.
means sit on your ass in order to win. That's all it takes. Divorce yourself from the entire system, go home and sit down and watch this bitch burn.
That's exactly that's
Take
right.
your motherfucking ball and go home. This your ball. The game over when you take your ball and go home because you're the only one with a ball on the field.
We the
Yep.
only, that's right. We the quarterbacks around here. That's right. They need our energy. I've been saying that.
So when I refer people to the Indigenous Rights Act of the United Nations and the Indigenous Rights Act of the United States, the reason why I do that is because before these motherfuckers left, they had to tell you that all of the rights they've been stealing from you, they had to count them out, the ones they stole, and tell you we didn't even have the jurisdiction to take that from you. It was good fucking you while we had you. But now, since you got into the gig that I'm really got little dick energy and I'm really short on the motherfucking delivery, I can go on and leave now. And this is your note saying goodbye. That's all it is. They fucked us good, told us how they fucked us, and left us a note on the dresser on their way out.
Then we just need to get their asses up out of here, though. That's the whole main part. Because as long as
That
they're
ain't even the hard part, though. Getting them out of here ain't even the hard part. In the because most of the dirty players have been rounded up at the highest levels. The little minions that's left, Angel Bay and them gonna clean them dirty moors up so fast y'all ain't gonna even know it was ever a dirty moor in existence.
I
I'm not
sure.
worried about that. The Almighty Pete Stones is not gonna
well,
play with them.
the Caucasians are the Moors.
No,
No.
them
Mm-mm.
motherfuckers look like us, but they not us.
Okay,
That's right.
yeah, that's
Right.
what we already said that head honcho who's running the bullshit look like us. But we talking about these old dusty motherfuckers that's running around here thinking they slick. They selling off. Well, they really ain't selling the land. They're selling what's on the land. Cause see, they got the Chinese coming up in here. The Chinese just
All that smoke and mirrors, sweetie.
That
okay.
sure is.
See,
Yeah,
so they
backdrop.
want you to think that the problem is bigger than Earth itself, so you won't even attempt to fix it. All of them pale people in positions of power is controlled by one of these dirty blackamoors,
Mm-hmm.
what they call more Zionist Jews. Them the motherfuckers been running the show ever since they been here.
Frida said, "What about these Siberian chinos? Uh, these Siberian huskies."
You talking about what she talking about
$5.
Yeah,
look.
alone.
Okay, so the $5 Indians is in groups.
Mm-hmm.
You got some of them that turned on the people that made them $5 Indians.
Mm-hmm.
They got exposed to us, and they love for us. They was like, "Fuck them people that brought us over here. We with you." Those are the ones that was entrusted to hold tribal secrets in sweat lodges over the peace pipe. But the ones that we don't want to fuck with, you'll know them in a minute because they not gonna recognize us as nothing but some niggas. That's
Mm-hmm.
how you know the $5 Indians that I'm about to talk about next.
That's
So they
right.
had chiefs that was made chiefs by Andrew Jackson, I think it was. He can't make no motherfucking chiefs over here because he ain't no goddamn chief from over here.
There you go.
So, and
Exactly.
he ain't got no mitochondrial right to knight no man chief on this land. This is the law of the land. When you go back to the lady and talking to the Pope, she's talking about a higher law, the law of the land. She put that motherfucker on notice and said we got the chiefs assembled. That got to be known to us. I've been screaming this shit for motherfucking 3 years now.
what he's doing and what we should be doing. So help me welcome for the very first time to this platform, Brother Rod Hayes. But before he comes on, please be sure to like, share, and if you have not already done so, subscribe to our channel. Now let's receive Brother Rod Hayes.
How
Well,
you doing?
how are you?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. Just trying to wake the people up. That's all.
I know that's right. I know that's right. And I am, first of all, let me say that I am have been a follower of your work ever since I first came across you. I mean, a few months back. I don't know how many months that was, but the thing that got me was I heard you mention uh, Grand Sheik Taj Tariq, and
Right.
you were talking about how he had been saying what what you were saying. He had been saying it for like 30, 40 years, and we still hadn't gotten it. And I said, okay, I mean, make sure his name was being mentioned in a good context because there's so many haters out there that don't
Listen,
appreciate and respect what he's doing. But that got me, and from then you had me from at that point.
so Taj has been pretty consistent in what he's been teaching. We were under a contract. The contract we didn't sign. We didn't make the contract, first of all, but the contract was written in the blood of one of our elders.
Okay.
So no blood of the righteous shall be spilled in vain. So my job as I grow is to watch the elders across the land and what they doing. I have to be able to read them the same way as I read a book.
Wow.
So Ty's been telling them how to navigate the contract because we wasn't supposed to be affected by the contract. That was
What
what's a
contract?
whole nother.
What contract are we talking about?
The contract we know it today is the Constitution. The Constitution is a blood oath agreement of Scottish Rite Freemasons under Albert Pike, right? Who is George Washington with a shaved beard.
So you're trying to say they pulled the okey doke on us?
Yeah, George Washington was my complexion, probably a little lighter if he was lighter. He was originally from Barbados, and his last name wasn't Washington; it was Washita. But what happened was the Scottish Rite Moors, who were in exile from Spain, challenged us to a conjure war. And the conjure war was to have us pit against the chiefs with the feathers and the elves with the fezzes to establish who was the wisest on the land. And George Washington, I did a lecture on this last night on my page, by the way, where I went into detail about how we got deceived.
Well, can you share a bit of that, do a little bit of a recap for us so we can, because one thing, I don't know if the audience caught it, but you said you mentioned two kinds of Moors. Well, you said the Moors with the chiefs
The
with the
term
feathers.
Moor is what you call a catch term in
Okay.
in grammar. A catch term is you got different people or different subject or idea in multiple language. But when you translate it into the new language, you need a term that's going to encompass all of these different ideas.
Okay.
Right? So the term Moor, it was the catch term for the More, the Moreno, Morisco, the Amur, Inca, the Amore, Amaru. All of those terms in English is rendered as Moor in translation, but they're not the same people.
Okay, not the same. Explain. Because we try to
Okay,
say that they're all the same, we just in different places, but you
because that's how they was. So in the Conjure War, if we don't, the ones with the feathers is the ones who is the defenders, the black piece on the chessboard. The ones who are in the fezzes came over, they were white, the white pieces on the chessboard. The white man ain't white. The white man look like us.
okay.
Right? Now, over here in modern times, some of our elders can halfway see them and they call them Negropeans. Right? So what they doing is they following the biblical blueprint of Jacob, undermining Esau, the ruddy red one, right? But they different people. But they don't want us to know this because we have what they call first right to the earth right. In other words, the women on the land over here are the ones who have the right to reclaim the earth at the close of the age. And we had to raise the matriarchy. And in order to raise the matriarchy, we have to put the pieces together of what happened, who did, where they done it at, how they done it, who was involved, who we are, who they are. So let's take Empress Tierra Gostin El Bay, Empress Verdiasi. She had L and she had Bay on her name. That means that the knowledge that she possessed, she could take feathers from a bay or fez from an L in order to reclaim the land. Right?
Mm-hmm.
And her bloodline ties straight back to Noble Drew Ali, same blood, Cherokee Nation, Washita, Didonga mound builders of ancient. Now, all the time, they over here in our midst, just the wheat and the chaff story.
You talked about that, yeah.
Right. They look like us, but they don't treat each other like we do. Right. There was a certain code on the land over here. You could tell the people from the land because no matter what happened, they follow that code. That's what you call righteousness. The code of righteousness is written in your heart. They call it those who follow the golden rule, the golden ones. Right? Mm-hmm. And we were the ones with the feathers. This is the Thanksgiving memorial. Because we had to know that the turkey was the symbol for the chief. In the harvest festival, the women cooked the chief a turkey. They took the harvest festival, then they murdered us on Black Friday. So it's not Thanksgiving that's not part of our culture. It's Black Friday that's the damning of a nation.
So they stop just a minute. So what you're saying is the day when before what we're going through the last couple of years, folks ran out and purchased everything and got all these deals and so forth is actually a day that commemorates the murdering of our chiefs. So the Thanksgiving, when folks say Thanksgiving is not ours, that was ours, but it was what happened the day after.
That didn't have nothing. That wasn't ours. They gave that to us whether we wanted it or not, and called it Black Friday. That's when the wars initiated. When they killed off the elders, and there's nobody to teach the children. Right? It's all in morals and dogma. It's the ones who follow the moral code written in their heart versus the ones who follow the dogma that is taught out in the open.
So when you talk about the dogma taught out in the open, are we talking quote unquote religious dogma or just
yes?
Okay.
So remember in Circle 7, Noble Drew Ali wrote a chapter called Religious Controversy. Now, why is that in there? Why is it important to know about the religious controversy? Because that shit didn't have nothing to do with us. We fighting over it. We fighting if we're gonna be Christians, Muslims, or Hebrews, and we wasn't none of that shit.
Yeah. They're talking in the chat. I mentioned in the chat they hear the static that's coming from you. So I don't know. We tried to get rid of it before we went live, y'all. So we're gonna do the best we can. We were talking prior and it was clear. As soon as we got ready to go live, the static came. So y'all know how it is, you know, any kind of little interference. So please bear with us. Just listen real close, turn up your sound or whatever. But you know,
you want me to try to go out and come back in? We could probably get a better link, better connection.
Okay, if you'd like to do that, let's see in there because you know it popped up all of a sudden.
Okay, let me see if we can get a better connection.
Okay, all right, y'all. Thank you all for your patience. Listen, while he's getting it back, listen, share this link, please. This is a special broadcast, and the brother's gonna drop some stuff. Please, please, please share right now. Share as far as you can. Tell everybody to get on. Let me see how it sounds right now.
How is it? How was the sound?
Sounds good to me right now. So let's hold on to that.
Okay.
Okay. Right. So yeah. Just let everybody know. You know, I want to see 1,000 in the chat. We've had more than 1,000. So come on. Let them so we can all know this, get this knowledge. I have given you, Brother Hayes, another name, a nickname or like a tag, and I call you the record keeper. You know, among the other things that you did, you're an activist, but I call you the record keeper because whenever we have talked over the last week or so, you just have such a barrage of, just a plethora of information and knowledge, and it just flows out of you just so natural. We talked about how you study we talked about the similarities between you and Grand Sheik on how you absorb yourself into things. But I mean, you just have, it's like you were endowed or endued and viewed with the gift of retaining or to get the information, the knowledge of the records, and to bring it back. Like I should have called you Brother Akashic. She got so much up in you.
Yeah, that might upset my sister Casha, so don't do that.
Oh, I don't mean no disrespect. I mean no disrespect, but I just know that when you and I have spoken, it has been just, I just get filled up with the knowledge that comes out. But let's go back. You're back on. So let's get back where we were. We were talking about what were we talking about? My goodness, you know where you were. I want you to get back on that because we're the different Moors. When you talked about the white man isn't the white that we know that they're not white, but you're saying that there were so-called white men, but they look like us, but they were not us. Am I correct?
Right.
There you go.
So they were called conquistadors. Okay. We know them in the history books as blackamoors.
Okay.
Right. And this is the reason why they was kicking our ass for so long. They used pale faces to block the institution so that we didn't know what was being done to us. They was doing everything in secret. That goes against the rules of the land over here.
Okay.
Right. So because they was doing it in secret and we couldn't get in the lodges, we invited half of Europe to come over here to flood the lodges with the same motherfuckers that kicked them out over there. Wow. Because they had the pale face, they could get in. Once they got in, then they can give us, we call it flip out. They can flip out the secrets into the public domain.
Now, who is us? Because now are we talking about the Moors that were not us or us, the ones of the land, the people of the land?
We wasn't called Moors.
Okay.
Right. We was already here.
All right.
Right. So we over here refer to them as black devils. Mm. Right, because they are sworn enemy. We didn't swear to be their enemy because we was kind-hearted, loving people who accepted everybody with open arms. They hugged us and then stabbed us in the back. Right?
And they're amongst us now, aren't they?
Yes.
Goodness.
Right. Some of them is some of your favorite activists that's been trying to get us to take up arms against pale people, but never letting us know that the people behind it, their skin ain't pale. They come out of the Scottish Rite Lodge, but we got blindsided by the group of Scottish Rite Freemasons that came in under Albert Pike.
So was Albert Pike sent in by the blackamoors
to.
So he was what you call a double agent and a turncoat. So they knew that our people with the feathers and the people with the feathers was going to have amnesia during the 200-year duration of the contract because of the blood oath. We didn't make the blood oath. We didn't volunteer our people for the blood oath. They done it on their own. They murdered Crispus Attucks and wrote the Constitution in his blood because they know no blood of the righteous shall be spilt in vain. The contract had to be fulfilled. It expired July the 4th, 2019. And the ones who was to alert us was what we call Republicans, the Elephant Lodge. The Elephants was the one who was loyal to Big Mama.
Who was Big Mama?
In ancient Egypt, we called her Tawaret. Big Mama is source creator, the dark mother, represented as the darkness of space, or what they call the primordial noon. Right? So when they came over here, we didn't know what was going on because we didn't have anything to do with none of the deals being made. And if you want to know more about that, you have to read David Walker's appeal when he was talking to the other chiefs on the land about these people that's in so-called bondage. They look like us, but the other elders was telling him, them people not us. Stay out of it, don't got nothing to do with us. And he couldn't understand why we don't get in it. Over time, the amnesia allowed us to be deceived. Once we was deceived, they told us we was the same people when we came on ships from Africa. When you go back and look at the history book, when the Moors got kicked out of Spain, they went to something called the Maghreb. The Maghreb was northwestern Africa. And that's why in the dogma, they tell us that this is northwestern Africa because they're trying to identify with the land so that they can claim our birthright.
So when you say they say this, meaning what they call a Mexim or America is also Northwest Africa.
But it ain't.
What you say, so it has nothing to do with the super devere that happened with the split and all that stuff. That the
no
shift and none of that.
That's the dogma.
Really?
The dogma is designed to make us believe that we the same people and to follow the feathers to our own destruction and to do away with the feathers for good.
So the fez that most Moors wear is the symbol of the black Moors. If that am correct? I'm trying to follow this, and not you might get some feedback, pushback because everybody's wearing their fez, and
But this is the problem. This is the problem now. Just like they was trying to make us forget who we was, we had to send chiefs in to take the fezzes from them. This is the chess game. So I can't tell the good Moor to take his fez off. He won that position by confronting the enemy directly.
Okay.
So he have to wear the fez, even though I can look in his face and know he's Choctaw, Chickasaw, Cherokee, Blackfoot, Crow. I know what he is, but I still gotta honor him wearing the fez because in order for him to get his rank, he have to dethrone one of the fez wearers. And the only way to dethrone him is by superior knowledge and wisdom. And the only way that's proven is by direct confrontation with him.
And did we? Did we?
Yeah, we won. Our people just don't know we won yet.
Wow. So we won. People don't know it. It almost sounds like Juneteenth. Like you're so-called, you've been emancipated, but you don't know it, so you still. And I know that's probably a fictitious thing too. But
the Emancipation Proclamation that's when they took the private property servitude or slaves or indentures and put them in what they call the public domain and made them wards of the collective state.
So
it's just a transfer.
Wasn't doing anything for the so-called melanated slaves. It was an administrative move
to take the slaves out of the hand of private owners and put them into the corporate jurisdiction of what we call the United States Corporation. The United States Corporation is a merger of something called the Northwest Trading Company and the Virginia Company. At the time, the Almarac was a royal company out of Spain that they called Morocco, but it didn't have any land. It wasn't tied to land. It was tied to a charter of a what they call letters patent decree by the Crown of England. Well, in this case, it was the Crown of France.
So the so-called the treaty that is often quoted cited, the peace and friendship.
That was a corporate agreement from the Crown to the CEO of the Almarac.
Okay.
It wasn't no Morocco. It was no country called Morocco.
I realize that. So we're told that there was something over here that deeded or gave them, ceded them some kind of a use to do commerce on the land. But we do know that Morocco, as we know it today, didn't become a whatever country state or whatever until in the 1900s, right?
You ever hear Malcolm X say, "We didn't land on Plymouth Rock. Plymouth Rock landed on us"?
Absolutely have.
Do you remember hearing about a ship that came from Europe called the Plymouth?
That I did not.
Okay, look it up. It's a ship. Well, the ship ran into a sandbar in the bay near DC. DC 10 square miles is what you call ground zero of the crash site.
No.
So this is what you call a collateral attack in law. So while they using the Babylonian blood magic to write the Constitution in the blood of Crispus Attucks, they take us to international court. When they take us to international court, they said that our landmass crashed into their ship, and it would take 200 years to dispensate the dispute. And during that time, they needed a charter to perform business over here.
So allegedly, they couldn't get back because their ship was.
We crashed our landmass into their ship.
Their ship didn't crash into our landmass. Our landmass crashed into their ship. It moved
That's
out.
their claim.
I'll be damned.
So when they make that claim and take us to international court, it automatically puts us under what they call admiralty jurisdiction in law. Right? Admiralty jurisdiction is the Uniform Commercial Code law of nations. Nations are corporations. Tribal lands are not a nation, they are a country.
Right.
We don't have cities, we have towns. We don't have counties, we have parishes. We don't have states, we have territories. But they did what they call, the CIA still do it to this day, it's called creating a cutout. The cutout is the lines of demarcation that break the land up into what they call manageable regions. And each manageable region is assigned a corporate charter. We call it the charter of the state. Right? Now, they overlaid their corporate jurisdiction on top of us without never telling us what they was doing. That's why I know what Drew Ali said, you have to learn how to run a government. Because if you don't know how to run a government, you'll never know what they done. Right? So now when I'm looking from genetic memory, I'm seeing how the shit's supposed to be, and I'm seeing how it is. So now I got to figure a way out to tell all of my people, this ain't us. This has nothing to do with us.
So even what's going on now, everybody's talking, just Sarah and the Sarah. They're talking things are happening. The government, the republic is being restored. These folks have been taken away and put in under arrest for crimes against humanity. Yet we still continue to see faces and we still continue to get mandates and all kinds of different things that are coming down. Just so are you saying that it's a show? It's happening.
It's absolutely 100% a shit show. It's not even a good show. But I've been eating my popcorn watching it play out because what they doing is the more of us that become aware, the more they losing their narrative in a CIA, KGB, MI5 controlled media conglomerates across the world.
Mm-hmm.
See, that's their last stronghold is media.
But isn't it true now? Now that I look back at it, brother Rod, what I got was that entertainment, as we've come to know it, and so-called enjoy it, was never for our good, and it was always for our control. Because I could think back to when you see the accounts of the radio with War of the Worlds, and they were testing to see how people would take, the news of some kind of space invasion, and folks were killing themselves and all that. But when you look back at the old movie reels and stuff, you'll see that media and military were hand in hand way back there. Most of the films that were being produced had an agenda behind them. I mean, I'm sure it has expanded over the years to some, sideline folks who think it's a real deal, but it's at its core, at its root, it seems as though it's always been a form of mind control and indoctrination. Yes.
That's 100%. Okay, so media means what? In the middle, don't it?
Yeah.
Who is it in the middle of? The have and the have-nots. Who owns it? The haves. And who are they trying to push their agenda on? The have-nots.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So while they trying to push their agenda on us, they using their agenda to keep us deluded into believing the narrative that they painted that we came on slave ships.
Mm-hmm. Then you got this whole, what is it? What is the agenda? The Pan African agenda. I remember talking to someone from Africa a few years ago who actually said that that you all came from here wasn't true. But I said, you know what? I said, but it's good for the economy, right? And he said, absolutely. So you got so many people that have been going, to Ghana and going to, Nigeria and different places like that. And they said, oh, they welcomed us. They're washing clothes and hanging them up and said, we've been washing your clothes for you, waiting for you to come back. I said, my goodness, it's a marketing campaign to get us to fall for or believe that that's where we came from.
That's why they had the Liberian movement, the Back to Africa movement.
Right. So we didn't come from there to here, but they took some of us or sent some of us from here to there.
Right. And where did they bring them from over here from? What part of the land did those people in Liberia come from over here?
I don't know.
The Lone Star State.
Texas.
That's why they only have one star on Liberia.
Ah.
So the ones that fell for the lie, like a lot of us over here believe they sold out. They didn't sell out. They actually believe that narrative that the Dirty Moors gave them, that they came on slave ships and that they was actually going back home. But they didn't find out until they was well settled over there that they wasn't from over there. Around the globe with out of context weather anomalies, like tornadoes in the winter, it's not coming, right? The areas where it's supposed to be hot is freezing. Hailstorms, but y'all think it's coming. It's not coming. This time of year is giving you what we would call spring and fall time weather, and people think that it's normal to see it playing out the way that it's playing out. This shit is not normal, right? They rain fish in Texas. There's blizzards in the northeast and in the northwest. It's a heat wave coming in, rolling in out the southwest. You got tropical storms coming out the southeast, converging, all of that shit over here. And people got the audacity to say that nothing's happening. Well, at this particular point, I'm sitting back watching and I'm saying to myself, this the calm before the storm. I don't know what's going to be the tipping point, but this is the calm before the storm because Only thing we ain't took control of is media, right? So mainstream media is the last thing out of enemies to go. So whoever it is working for our side should probably be trying to shut that shit down, right? Because once they shut down the fake media, there's nobody to keep up the charade. That's snatching the curtain off their ass, right? So, like, I can't tell a motherfucker when shit gonna happen. I done said that a million times. I can read it in real time as it's happening, and I can give a reasonable assumption of what this add up to in a mathematical sense. That's not prophecy. That's not giving prophecy. That don't mean I gotta always be right. And that's where motherfuckers make their mistake. They think that if any motherfucker say something, he gotta automatically be right. I can be wrong too. I don't gotta always be right. But the fact that whether I'm wrong or whether I'm right, I stand on my motherfucking convictions. My mama said, let your yes be yes and let your no's be no. So if a motherfucker don't understand what that means, then that's their problem, not mine. Right? So, I've been trying to figure out, like, what else to tell these people. What else can I tell them to do? Once I done told y'all who the kings of the land was, and y'all supposed to be pushing that agenda, but nobody's really, only certain key people pushing the agenda. Everybody else sitting on the fence, twiddling their legs, you know, flipping their thumbs. I've been laying low, watching, and I know something ain't right. I just don't know what it is. Something don't fit in the equation, right? The math is incongruent right now. So the only thing to do to make it more congruent and balance that shit out is to flip a bigger turnaround on the media, because they the ones keeping the charade going. They the ones broadcasting this bullshit from fake presidential Oval Office studios, Castle Rock. They got one on the